y'all. Welcome to today's episode of Healthy Cooking with Dorothy Ann. I'm Dorothy Ann Davis, Miss Davis's mama. Today we're going to be focusing on squash. Squash is a vegetable that grows up real strong in summertime. I love it in a lot of different capacities. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to cook squash, and I'm going to show you a couple different kinds of squash. First, today we're going to be cooking some zucchini, which has all kinds of vitamins and minerals in it. Then we're going to cook up my favorite, yellow squash. All kinds of vitamins and minerals, no fat, no salt, no sugar. It don't get better than that. Let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is preheat my oven. We're going to set the oven to 400 degrees. We just hit the bake. We set our temperature. We're going to hit start, and then we'll just wait until it's ready. We're going to use that oven to cook up the yellow squash today. We're going to be throwing it on that there baking sheet. But while that oven is warming up, let's go ahead and get our zucchini going. All right, I got all my vegetables all clean and rinsed up, so I'm just going to go ahead and get to chopping. Zucchinis and squash are real easy to chop. That's one reason why I like cooking them. This is a lot easier than chopping up all the stuff that we did last time for our salsa. It's going straight through here, chopping it into ringlets. And I'll go ahead and get all this chopped up. All right, I got all my zucchini chopped up. And as healthy as it is for me to eat squash just like this, here's the problem. I don't think squash tastes very good when you just eat it fresh like this. So we're going to be cooking it in a little bit of fat today. The form of fat that we're using is olive oil. Now, here's the trick. When you're cooking with fat, you only want to use just a little bit of it. If I go crazy with this oil, this fat, then my squash ain't healthy no more. What's the point of eating vegetables if it's covered in all sorts of fat? Now, the other thing to remember is the more you cook a vegetable, the fewer vitamins and minerals and nutrients that vegetable's going to have. So if you cook it a little bit, that's good. It makes it taste good. It makes the texture a little bit better. But if you overcook it to where it's soft and just burnt to a crisp, there's really no point in eating it at that stage. So don't overcook it. You want to keep an eye on it. You want to heat it up a little bit. You want to get it tasting good, but you don't want to turn it into mush. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and put a little bit of oil in this here pan. Now, whenever you're sauteing vegetables in a pan like this, you're going to put your oil in, you're going to go ahead and turn your stove top on. You can turn it on high if you want. Before I add the zucchini in here, I actually want to wait and let that oil get a little bit hot. Now, you don't want it to get crazy hot. You don't want the oil popping all over the place because it's so hot. You don't want to wait that long. But you want to let it warm up a little bit before you put the zucchini in. So we're going to wait just a minute, and then we'll throw our zucchini in. All right, our oil's warmed up. I'm going to go ahead and drop our zucchini right on in there. All right, once you got your zucchini all in there, you want to kind of mix it around. Try to get that oil on each of the little pieces of the squash. My oil's starting to sizzle a little bit. It's getting good and hot now. And this really won't take all that long for them to cook. Y'all, it's already smelling good, and we just barely got started. Now, to add a little bit of extra flavor, one thing you can do is throw some pepper. I like a lot of pepper. You can also add a little bit of salt for extra flavor. Now, don't put quite as much salt in here as I did pepper. I like a lot of pepper. It adds flavor. Salt is actually not very good for us. So you want to use just a little bit for flavor, not a lot. Kind of like how we did with our oil. Just a little bit, not a lot. All right, we're just going to get to stirring that on up. Won't be long now, y'all. Now, while that's cooking, we can go ahead and chop up our yellow squash. And this is the way we chop our squash, chop our squash, chop our squash. This is the way we chop our squash because we eat real healthy. All right, y'all, I finished cutting up all the yellow squash. I went ahead and put it on the cooking sheet there. And looky here, while I was cutting up that yellow squash, our zucchini got done cooking, went ahead and pulled it off. And doesn't that look beautiful? I'm gonna go ahead and try a bite. That is so good, make you want to slap your mama. Now, when we're cooking the yellow squash, we're also going to use a little bit of oil. But this time, instead of putting it in the pan and heating the oil up first, we're going to go ahead and toss the squash in the oil, and then we'll just throw it right on into the oven to cook for a little while. So you just pour it right on. Now remember, you don't want to add a whole lot. You can always add more, but once you add too much, you can't take it away. So just start with a little bit. I'm just going to mix that right on up. Try to cover every little piece. All right, now our squash is pretty much all coated in that oil. And now we want to kind of put them in as thin a layer as we can. Now these are going to stack up on each other just a little bit because I got so much squash here. But you want to try to get them just as flat as I can. That'll make them cook a little quicker, a little more even. And if you want, you can put a little salt and pepper on this too for a little extra flavor. I'm going to do that as well. Now, like I said before, I like a lot of pepper because it gives you some good flavor. And there's nothing about it that's bad for you. All right. We'll throw in just a little bit of salt. Okay, that's good. We're just gonna pop that right on into this oven. We'll wait about 20 to 25 minutes. You can set your timer on your oven if you want to, or you can just keep an eye on your squash. If you set a timer, you can kind of just go in the other room and not even think about it, so that's kind of nice. But I always like to keep an eye on what I'm cooking while it's in the oven, because it's easy to overcook stuff, so you just want to keep an eye on it. And if that squash is starting to look black, getting a little char on it, you want to go ahead and pull that right on out. All right, y'all, I just checked on the yellow squash, and it's starting to get pretty well done. So now what I'm going to do, grab my oven mitt, I'm going to pull it on out, and we're actually going to add one more ingredient right quick. My glasses are fogging up. It's so hot out here. All right, so take a look at this beautiful yellow squash. Now, as you can see over here, I picked some grapes out of a bag that I had. Really nice giant purple grapes, and what I'm going to do is just kind of throw them in here. Now, this might seem a little weird to you, throwing grapes in with yellow squash. Just trust me. So we're just going to spread them all around here. Mix it up. I love grapes, especially in the summertime. If you're ever looking for a refreshing summertime treat, you can throw some grapes in the freezer. Every time you get hot, come inside looking for something cold to eat, throw you a frozen grape in your mouth and tell me it ain't heaven. All right, we got our grapes all thrown in here, and now I'm actually going to set this back in the oven. And what you want to do is really keep an eye on this. Now, this is going to take about another 15 minutes or so, but you might end up pulling it out a little sooner than that. What you want to look for is when the grapes get so hot that they look like they're about to burst. That's when you want to go ahead and pull them out before they actually do burst. So I'm going to just set this right back on in there for a few more minutes. Now, while that's finishing up, I want to introduce our last ingredient that we're going to sprinkle on the top once we pull that squash back out of the oven. This is goat cheese. It's one of my favorite cheeses in the whole wide world. Y'all, if you ain't ever tried goat cheese, you are in for a treat. Go get you some. Make this recipe. You will not be disappointed. Now, you can add whatever kind of cheese you want to this. You could add feta cheese. You could do a little Parmesan cheese. Like I said, goat cheese is my favorite. Now, cheese is pretty fatty too. We already put a little bit of oil in our squash, and now adding cheese is going to make it even fattier. For that reason, you really don't want to add a whole lot. Goat cheese packs a lot of flavor. You don't need that much. So when we pull this out of the oven, what we're going to do is let it cool. We're going to put it in a big, nice serving bowl, and then we're just going to sprinkle a little bit of this goat cheese right on top. It's going to be so good, make you want to slap your mama. All right, y'all, the squash is done cooking. The grapes look good. I went ahead and pulled them on out of the oven, put them in a little bowl, and look how beautiful that is. Now, last thing we gotta do is just add a little bit of that goat cheese. Like I said, just a little, not a lot. Little bit goes a long way. So we're just gonna drizzle a little bit of that over the top here. Maybe a little bit more. Oh, that's plenty right there. All right, last thing to do is give it the old taste test. Let's see. I'm gonna get me a grape on here. I'm gonna get me a couple pieces of squash. Hopefully it's not gonna burn my mouth. It is kind of hot still, but I'll take that risk for you. Y'all, that is so good. It really does make you want to slap your mama.
Why do you always say that about the stuff you cook?
Well, try it and you'll see what I mean.
Well, this is actually really good. It's like really good.
So good it makes you want to slap your mama, doesn't it?
I mean, if you're asking if eating this is making me suddenly feel violent towards you, I would say no.
Hit me!
What?
Hit me! Hit me!
Have you been watching professional wrestling again? I thought that we talked about that, Mom. Was that my t-shirt that you just tore in half?